Welcome to another episode of Popcorn Bucket List. This is the March episode. We are going to be reviewing the month of February, some of the biggest highlights from that, and then we're going to be previewing you what's coming up in the month of March. My name is Nick Dahlhoff. I am the host of this show. My wardrobe today is speed related. I got my NASCAR hat, one of my favorite NASCAR hats. Yep. Shout out to Alex Bowman for winning Auto Club yesterday. That was a great win. I also got my Flash t-shirt. We're waiting on that Flash movie. I want to see that Flash movie, Warner Brothers. You've been holding off on my Flash movie for too long. One man who's always reliable, though, unlike Warner Brothers, is my friend Ryan Meyerberg, sitting here next to me.
And as you can see, my wardrobe today, I actually wore this shirt before. It's a Monomarth, another wonderful rock metal, pretty heavy metal band. I did buy some Rammstein tickets for later in this summer, but I will have a new shirt for you next time. I was unable to gather one before this show, so they'll be back. Don't worry, Nick.
All right, we got a lot to discuss here. We're going to do things just a little bit different today. We're going to be focusing on the box office and the review here kind of around the same time. And then we got a little special thing to talk about here coming up after the break. But first, let's talk box office. Let's look at that money, where it went to. Let's take a look at who won our box office bet. I took it with Sonic the Hedgehog. Speed wins today. I didn't even plan that, but yeah, Flash, Sonic, Speed winning. Yeah. It's almost like it was meant to be.
Almost like it was meant to be.
Let's see how it stacked up with the other top 5 winners here from this month. Coming in at number 5 was the horror PG-13 movie Fantasy Island. Coming in at number 4, Call of the Wild, the Harrison Ford movie. Coming in at number 3 was another horror flick, The Invisible Man.
Yep.
Number 2 came in the ensemble film Birds of Prey, and taking that top spot was Sonic the Hedgehog. Obviously, Birds of Prey was your pick. This was first and second. We talked about this off camera. Very rarely do we pick the top ones when we make our own bets here, but we took the top 2 here. Both were very strong performers. One coming in at $58 million, the other one coming at a little over $30 million. The other thing to mention, the reason why you saw the estimated under The Invisible Man, when we shot this, the numbers had just came in. Yep. So that was just a rough estimate, but they don't fluctuate too much once you get them all totaled up. Yep. But Ryan, just looking at that top 5 list, were there any surprises? Anything you noticed about it?
I will say I was a little surprised. Not surprised necessarily that Sonic won, but it actually, beat Birds of Prey pretty badly. And I was expecting that to be a little closer, but I think a lot of positive words came out about Sonic right when it was coming out, and I think that really helped push it even further up the scale than what I originally thought.
I think 2 things that were very similar about this movie as well is they both underwent drastic changes before they came out. We mentioned the Sonic redesign.
Yep.
And how that was possibly going to be a good push for fans to come out to see this, just to make sure that they got it right and everything. But the other thing I don't think we really mentioned last month on our show was the retitling of the Birds of Prey movie.
Correct. Yeah, we didn't bring that up at all.
Yeah, I've been calling it Birds of Prey. The official title has changed about 3 or 4 times, I think, probably since we recorded last month.
Yeah.
In fact, they changed it after opening day.
Yep. After opening day, it became Harley Quinn and the Birds of Prey, I believe, right?
Yeah. That was a joke I made, by the way.
Yes.
And then all of a sudden, the opening day, they're like, oh, yeah, we're going to change it to Harley Quinn, and they meant featuring the Birds of Prey.
Yeah. And it used to be the Birds of Prey, the
Emancipation of Harley Quinn.
Harley Quinn.
Something like that.
Yeah. And I think that might have gotten lost with fans or just the general audience when, is it a Harley Quinn movie? Is it Birds of Prey? What is going on here? What's the actual name of this film? When you see the name on a poster, the title on a poster, you don't want it to be different when you go into the auditorium or the theater and you see something different on the board and then something different on another poster in there and something different on the theater title. I'm just happy that they finally got it right, but maybe a little bit too late.
Yeah. It makes no difference if you're a comic book fan.
Yes.
Comic book fans like us, we know Harley Quinn's in the Birds of Prey movie, we know Birds of Prey's in the Harley Quinn movie, it doesn't matter. But if you are not a diehard fan, you don't know the comics,
Yep.
and you hear, hey, that Birds of Prey movie was really great. You maybe go to the cinema that next day, next weekend, and all of a sudden there's no Birds of Prey movie. There's a Harley Quinn movie. You know, you don't know which one they're talking about then, and maybe some of the confusion comes up from that.
Yep, I agree. And yeah, like you said, the general public, they have, if they're not comic book fans, they have no idea what the Birds of Prey are.
Should have been something that was clearly established long before the movie came out. But
Yep.
at least they didn't have to redesign Harley Quinn
For every single
single seed.
Yeah.
That would have been a much bigger headache, I think. So those were the box office. Obviously, fans of the show know usually we take a break here, then do a review. We're going to go straight into the review here.
We got a lot for you later.
We got a lot for you here coming up. So we're just going to tackle some of the best reviewed movies from this past month. Let's take a look at who won our bets for best reviewed. This one was also pretty close here. We're going to see here in a little bit. Most times, you see Ryan winning the box office, I win the review. This time, roles have reversed.
Yep, roles changed.
Ryan wins review. I took the box office this time. Let's take a look at the top 5, though, see where it stacked up with everyone else. Coming in at number 5 was Call of the Wild. My pick just barely sneaking in there. The rest of these movies here, as you can see with the graphic, a very close race with these next 3 coming in. The Photograph at number 4, which was at a 78%. And then just beating it out was Sonic with a 78.5. And then just a few points above that at number 2, Birds of Prey or Harley Quinn, featuring the Birds of Prey, depending on when you went to go see the movie, really. And then taking that number 1 spot with a landslide, The Invisible Man with 89%.
Did not see that coming at all.
Yeah.
That was completely a blindside, I would say.
Yeah, I think the really interesting thing to mention about this month was there were about 7 major releases that we talked about with this show that we previewed. There were obviously other ones that came out, but if you look at these 7 major releases, 3 of them were of the horror genre.
Correct.
If you notice with the top 5 list, only one of them even made it in.
Yep. And horror is one of those where it can either do really well or bomb.
And this list shows it.
Yes.
You only had one make the top 5. Not only that, took the top spot with no competition whatsoever. And actually, the other 2 that were on other 2 horror movies that didn't make the list, they weren't even close to making it on here.
They were terrible.
They were in the mid 20 percentile as far as average Rotten Tomato scores. And again, just as a reminder, how we come up with those, we take the critic score, we take the audience score, and we average those out, get the best of both worlds. So here, you saw 2 wildly different sides of the coin.
Yes. It was surprising.
Yeah, so overall, a really tight race, some really good movies to check out there and everything. So we're going to take a quick break here. When we come back, we're going to talk about the Oscars. Because if no one else has talked about the Oscars, we're going to keep talking about them. It's been a while, but, you know,
we got some things to say.
We got some things to say. So stay tuned here on Popcorn Bucket List.
Action!
Disaster tips from the objects left behind.
My home wasn't insured, but you can check your insurance policy now to make sure you're covered. Oh.
My savings are lost, but you can put money aside and plan for unexpected disaster costs.
We're lost forever, but you can scan important documents now so they survive.
For more tips on how to prepare, visit ready.gov.
Welcome back to Popcorn Bucket List. Like I said before, we're going to be talking about the Oscars.
Yep.
Obviously, we've mentioned the Oscars quite a bit on this show, especially with potential good performances, especially with great reviewed movies. So we're going to break down some of the Best Picture nominees from this last month's award ceremony, kind of talk about what we think did well, some of our favorites, some of the big news. There was quite a big upset that came with the Best Picture.
Yep.
So let's take a look at all the Best Picture nominees here. This is the 9 Best Picture nominees that were represented at the Oscars this year. Let's break some of them down. A lot of these we've actually talked about before on the show, especially with our number 1 recommends. You have Joker, you've got Jojo Rabbit, Martin Scorsese's The Irishman, Quentin Tarantino's Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, the foreign film from Bong Joon-ho, Parasite, Ford v Ferrari, which was a favorite of mine a couple months ago, Greta Gerwig's Little Women, Sam Mendes' 1917, and Marriage Story. So let's talk about who actually won here.
Yep.
So for those of you who maybe missed it, Bong Joon-ho's Parasite was the winner of the Best Picture race. Ryan, why don't you talk about how big of a deal this was?
Well, first off, I didn't even know this movie existed until maybe a couple of weeks before the Oscars when I looked up the list and wanted to see which ones I haven't seen yet. And Parasite, knowing nothing about it, I was able to go home and watch it. I watched it on Amazon Prime, actually, with a friend, and absolutely blew my mind away at how interesting and different at the same time this film was. And, one of the things we talked about, well, to all the films that were up there, it was kind of a diverse movies to choose from, whether it's Jojo Rabbit, a comedy, 1917 historical fiction, Marriage Story about a drama between a man and his husband and a wife, Irishman, a mobster. There was all kinds of different little films. And, but this film was the first film to win the Oscars that was a foreign film.
Yes.
And that made huge news. And in his thank you speech, he thanked Quentin Tarantino, Martin Scorsese. So that was cool to see that watching it live. I really enjoyed that.
Yeah, it really was a historical moment. This, surprisingly though, wasn't the first foreign film nominated. Throughout all the history of the Oscars, about 12 have been nominated. One of the other recent ones, Roma, actually was nominated previous year. But this was the very first foreign film Best Picture winner. And like you said, I heard a lot of build-up with this. There was, when you scroll on film Twitter or go on some of the message boards and everything like that, every once in a while you hear that one person goes, oh man, you gotta check out this movie, Parasite. And then I heard it was this foreign film, like, oh, a lot of the talk that was happening, I was like, that's probably going to be your best foreign film winner. And which it also won that as well.
Which it won that one as well,
but you almost never put it in these arguments of Best Picture.
Best Picture.
I had a chance to see it too. I got to say, it was a really tight race with a lot. I've got a chance to see a majority of these movies. This is a really tight race. I have no problem with this one winning.
Same with me. This film, going into it, not knowing a whole lot about it, just that it was good and you should watch it. And all the twists and turns that it takes you on, and you think you know what's going to happen next, and it's a complete, 180 of what you're thinking and how the story just plays out. You don't really know, is this a horror movie? Is this a drama? Is this what kind of film is this? And it had little things from all these different kind of genres, and maybe that was just because, like you said, it is a foreign film. It's coming from a different perspective than what we're used to maybe over here in more American films. So I loved it. Great movie.
Yes, agree. So let's spread some of the love here. Let's talk about some of the other Best Picture nominees as well, because they also came out with some wins here. Let's look at some of the list again here. 1917, which was another big one that came out that I believe one of us, number 1, recommended a couple episodes ago.
Yeah, a couple episodes ago.
This one had a big win as well. Roger Deakins, who is the cinematographer, won for Best Cinematography. This is big in the film world. He is a well-known cinematographer. Just look him up on IMDb, and he's probably done some of the most visually stunning movies.
Some of your favorite movies, probably.
Probably, yeah. So he's been one of those guys who's finally been getting the recognition he's been needing these past few years at the Oscars, and it's great to see him win here again.
And visual storytelling, you see that a lot in a lot of these bigger movies, or where they're taking risks or new steps. Just wonderful to see that.
Some of the other big wins, Once Upon a Time in Hollywood scored Brad Pitt a Best Supporting Actor win. I totally agree with that as well. Some of the other acting achievements that was made, Laura Dern won for Best Supporting Actress. As far as the Best Actor category, Joaquin Phoenix, this probably was the least surprising win of the night, if I'm going to be honest. If Parasite was the upset, Joaquin Phoenix winning Best Actor was kind of the one where everyone was like, yep,
okay.
makes sense, makes sense. No one was against it. Everyone was kind of behind that one. Joker also, though, winning for Best Original Score, which when I read that, I remember thinking, you know what, yeah, that score was pretty on par with that film's tone and really elevated it.
Yep, and I think if like the second or third time you go back and watch it and you notice one of the things that you didn't notice the first time you watched it because you weren't supposed to, the music plays into that. And I, like you said, wonderful music, very well written, and yeah, well deserved.
Speaking of written, a couple other writing categories that were won by other films. Parasite also won for Best Original Screenplay, as well as Bong Joon-ho winning for Best Director even. So a lot of wins for Parasite, but also a little representation for Jojo Rabbit. Taika Waititi won for Best Adapted Screenplay, which from some of the scenes and clips I've seen from the movie, there's a lot of comical humor. Obviously, comedy is so hard to write. It's great to see Taika Waititi continue to elevate his career and get more and more recognition as his career goes on along here. But let's also talk about some of the other lesser-known awards, because I think those take a little bit of representation and hard work as well. Best Production Design went to Once Upon a Time in Hollywood. One of the other awards that Little Woman pulled off was Jacqueline Duran won for Best Costume Design as well. And I, just speaking with some of the people in the theater department here, I know how much work goes into costume design, and that one really felt authentic to me too. It really draws you into the world. It's some of those little things that really help with that as well. One of the other ones, as far as the editing category goes, Ford v. Ferrari was the big winner on that one, who won overall for Best Editing and also for Best Sound Editing. One thing we did notice, however, that we kind of want to talk about.
Very interesting. Kind of, I don't know if other places are talking about this or other movie outlets are. I haven't seen much.
We could be just conspiratory here,
we could
but
be.
it was
We
something
could be.
interesting we noticed. On our list here of the Best Picture nominees, we have here all the awards that they've won. Two movies that were nominated for other Oscars but didn't win any were The Irishman and Marriage Story, the only two movies on here that were Netflix movies.
Correct.
So it feels like this company especially has had sort of an uphill climb. For a while there, it was a big deal just to get nominated.
Just to get nominated.
And we just kind of found it interesting. These were the only two that were not winners in any category.
Yeah, it was interesting, but you know they still put out some amazing productions, put out some good things. So who knows? You know, maybe this is a learning experience for them, and they'll come back even stronger.
Yeah,
they're great films. They're still great films. It's just we just noticed that it's nothing against Netflix or against anybody.
yeah,
It's
just something fun.
Just something fun.
We thought there.
Yeah.
But yeah, like we mentioned, Irishman and Marriage Story are both able to watch on Netflix. If you want to check out any of these other movies, Joker, Parasite, Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, Jojo Rabbit, and Ford v. Ferrari can all be bought and rented on Amazon Prime right now. The movie Little Women will be coming out on DVD April 7th. And 1917, fun fact for all of you here who live in the Marshall area, it's still in the theaters.
You can still
You
watch
can still watch it
in the theater
And
on
I
the big screen.
Highly recommend it. We mentioned cinematography. The best cinematography movies are best seen in theaters.
Yes, this is a film you want to see in the theaters.
But if somehow you do miss it, you can also check it out on DVD March 24th.
Yeah.
So those are talking about some of our Best Picture nominees, winners, all that. Let's get into some number one recommends. Ryan, why don't you start us off? We opened up the number one recommend to include this list as well, because I know there's one you really want to talk about.
I really want to recommend Parasite. It is a wonderful film. However, it is subtitled, so you will have to be alert, paying attention to the words that are talking, but just kind of the layers and the class structure and how society views people in those settings or where they're at financially, or in the way they show it is a very different take than I thought. Like, if I was going to make a movie that explained this, I would not show it this way. And you know, with his earlier films like Snowpiercer is a great film too, very, very fun, and it's got Chris Evans in it, and that's where I first heard of Bong Joon-ho. Yep. And but Parasite, you definitely need to watch it. It's gonna be, you know, they talk about those classic films that everybody's seen, The Green Mile, or like films like that, and I think someday Parasite will be up to that level.
My number one recommend for this past month is Birds of Prey, or Harley Quinn Emancipation, featuring Birds of Prey,
Batman,
however you want to call it.
Yeah.
Harley Quinn not featuring Batman, which
Not
apparently was a
Batman.
big deal,
Yeah,
I guess. I don't know. But I'm going to be honest, I've mentioned on this show before, I'm a big DC Comics fan. I was a little bit worried going into this movie. But there are moments in here where it is just so much fun, and you can tell the actors on set are having so much fun. The action is pretty well done, especially the final fight scene when they all get together and have to take on this horde of gang members.
Yeah.
I mean, they are teaming up and just kicking all kinds of butt, and it is.
And the setting where they're doing it just adds to it
so
much
colorful
more.
and so visually stunning.
It's a very fun movie.
Yeah. So for a movie I was really worried about, I left with a smile on my face. A lot of fun. If you are a DC Comics fan or you just want to see an action movie with a bunch of butt-kicking women, go check this out. Also some great humor in it as well.
Yep.
So those are our number one recommends. We encourage you to check out these movies, as well as any other movies that maybe came out this past month that we didn't get a chance to really mention. Go and check them out and come out with your own number one recommends. Maybe we're wrong.
Yeah.
Maybe we are.
We could be.
But film is subjective. But coming up after the break, we are going to preview the month of March, talk about what's coming out, and make our bets and continue this competition, which isn't really a competition because I'm not keeping score. So stay tuned. He thinks he is, but stay tuned after the break.
A Dog's Way Home is the story of the extraordinary lengths a dog will go to in order to get back to their family. Every year, millions of dogs and cats end up in shelters and rescue groups. We found our Bella at a shelter in Tennessee. When you adopt a shelter pet, you discover they're all pure love. Adopt pure love and help a shelter pet find their way home at theshelterpetproject.org.
Hey Bobo, do trees tell each other stories?
I'm sorry. I'm afraid I don't know that.
Hey, why don't we go find out? Listen.
Do clouds take naps?
I couldn't tell you.
Dad, do stars visit their friends?
Look!
Welcome back to Popcorn Bucket List. It is now time to preview the month of March, see what's all coming out here. We got quite a list of films to talk about here, so let's just get right into it with the opening weekend of March, March 6th. We have two movies coming out here. Onward, which is the latest from Pixar, starring Chris Pratt and Tom Holland, as well as The Way Back, which is a basketball story starring Ben Affleck. So Pixar obviously is usually on quite a rise here. They've been doing great. This one, I think the two cast members are going to be pretty good and electrifying off
I was
each
going to
other.
say, Chris Pratt and Tom Holland, I think they're going to be great together, especially when they're in an animated field where they can really get into the characters and throw their voices around. So I think that'll be great.
Coming out the very next week on March 13th, this is the quote-unquote big weekend with 4 films coming out. Vin Diesel's Bloodshot, The Hunt, My Spy, and I Still Believe. Now, if one of those posters looks familiar, My Spy, we actually talked about that movie in our Winter Spectacular. That one was supposed to come out in January. However, the release date got pushed here to March. So hopefully they don't make me look like a liar again and actually release the film this time. I was pretty embarrassed about that.
Yeah.
But the other one to talk about is The Hunt. This one had a little bit of controversy that also had a big push as far as the release date goes as well. This one was, I believe, supposed to come out in like October or November, but I think there was some mix-up as far as what the story was, that a lot of people got upset over it. A lot of politicians even got into it as well. It is kind of a little bit more of a violent movie about possibly hunting humans, maybe not. The film's a little vague on that. There were some outside influences as well that made it so it got pushed to this day. A lot of the marketing behind this film has been, it's the most controversial movie that nobody's seen yet. So we'll have to see if this time this one also comes out, and they got to stop making me look like a liar. This is 2 movies that came out now.
And I'm excited to see this just because when a movie creates so much controversy before it's even out and the public has had a chance to see it, that piques my interest. I like watching stuff that people have strong opinions on, and I like to gather my own. So they'll be fun.
Coming out on the very next weekend on March 20th, sitting all alone by itself, A Quiet Place Part 2. This is the follow-up to the hit thriller A Quiet Place. John Krasinski is coming back again to direct, and I'm super excited for this movie, I'm going to be honest.
Me too.
Coming out March 27th is Mulan. This is the next in the long line of Disney live-action remakes. We've seen some hit or miss in these past few years. The last few have been hit, so we'll have to see if that continues the tradition here with Mulan. But with that, it is time to do our bets, our picks. Unfortunately, nobody on set here today has a coin of any form or variety, so we're going to try something different. Ryan here, he's got his car key. He's going to flip it out, and we're going to spin the bottle of this. Whichever side it points to gets to pick first. Gets to pick which, whether box office or review they want to pick first, and then also gets to get the first dibs on said movie. So Ryan, why don't you give it a spin?
Give it a spin? All right.
Round and round it goes. Next time I'm going to remember a quarter, for crying out loud. And it points to my side definitively. Finally, you know what? No, this is the first time I've won the toss or the spin or whatever. We're doing this from now on. This is what's going to happen from now on. All right, so I am going to pick reviewed first.
You're doing review
I'm
first.
gonna do review
Okay.
first. I think I have a better track record with review, so I'm gonna pick reviewed first. My pick for best reviewed, A Quiet Place Part 2.
I was gonna
yes.
do.
That's the one you wanted to pick. Oh, it feels so good to steal that from you.
All right.
So this is what it feels like to have the first pick now. Okay, that's good.
Well, in that case, for reviewed, Onward.
Onward?
I'm going with
Okay.
Onward. Pixar has a pretty good track record, right, of having some good reviewed films. So, all right. So then, does this mean it's my turn?
You get to pick first for box office then, my friend.
All right. I am going with Mulan. I think that's going to do fairly well, and I'm.
The last few
Throw it out in
have
the
made
dark.
over $1 billion overall.
Yep.
So we'll have to see.
Yep.
I am doubling down. I'm putting all my eggs into one basket.
Okay.
I love the first one so much. I think this time John Krasinski, he's not on camera as much, so he's going to be behind the scenes a little bit more. He's going to have a little bit
Great
chance to
point.
play with some stuff.
That is a great
I'm going with
point.
A Quiet Place Part 2 for both box office and reviewed. So
You know, I might say I hope that I lose both of these just because I want that film to do really good. I loved the first one, thought it was very interesting and unique, and the writing, directing, producing, whatever, all that stuff that he's doing, and I agree with you, he's not acting in it, so he will have a lot more time behind the camera, and I think that's going to lead to some really good things, and I'm very excited for that movie.
now on the flip side, if early reviews come out and this thing sucks,
Done.
I'm dead in the water. But if the early reviews come out great,
You'll be all
could
right.
be. This is why we call it the bets.
Yep.
You know.
Yep.
You know, you sometimes got to take risks.
That's right.
So that does it for another episode here of Popcorn Bucket List. We want to thank you for sticking around to watch us. Be sure to check out all these films here. Let us know what you think. And be sure to come back next month to see how these films do and see the preview of some of the next ones coming up.
Yeah.
For Mr. Ryan Meyerberg and myself, we'd like to say thank you and see you next time.